My name is Bobby O'Donnell, and I'm a 20-year-old college student from a town just south of Boston, Massachusetts called Easton. On April 15th, 2013, I woke up knowing that it would be a day I would never forget. Unfortunately, it became a day that America will never forget. This is fear. This is what thousands of people, including my family, witnessed in the streets of Boston on April 15th, 2013. This is the infamous marathon bombing. I was 0.6 miles from the finish line when the bombs went off. And my family was waiting for me at that finish line. I come from a very small, safe town, and I never had to fear much growing up. But I knew what fear was when I thought that my family had been killed. You see, the police officers had stopped the race, and the runners where I were still weren't quite sure what had happened. The police stated that an incident had occurred and that the race was now over. And as spectators began to make their way back, they were running. And among that chaos and confusion that was ever increasing, I was still trying to grasp what was going on. At this point, I had been running for about 4 hours. I was cold, tired, and I was wondering why the race, the day that I had worked so hard for, was now over. I stopped one of the spectators and I asked her if she could tell me what was happening. She told me that 2 bombs had exploded at the finish lines. She looked up at me with terror in her eyes, and she told me that the grandstands had blown up. My family was in the grandstands. My girlfriend Jessica, my mom, my dad, my nana, my aunt, my cousin. This is my family, and in an instant, I thought that I had lost all of them. I later found out that that spectator was misinformed and that the bombs did not blow up the grandstands. My family was able to escape physically unscathed. When I was finally able to reunite with them in what seemed like forever, I hugged them, we cried, I held them tight. But that feeling of fear that I felt did not go away. Even when I knew that my family was safe, that fear stayed with me and continued to haunt me for the next year. In the days following the marathon, people came up and asked me, "Are you going to come back and finish the race next year?" And my immediate answer was yes, of course. How could I not? I had reason now more than ever to return to the start line in 2014. The Boston Marathon was my dream, and it was stolen from me. This was my city, my race, and I wanted it back. So I began to train again, but by the time April rolled around, that feeling of fear started to come back into my mind. I feared that it would happen again, that my family would be in danger, and that there'd be nothing I could do about it. And not many people know, but the week leading up to the marathon in 2014, even though this was my dream, I had a really hard time being okay to come back and run that year. But I'm an average man. I was not brave. But I did not let fear stop me. And on April 21st, 2014, I returned to the Boston Marathon. I re-entered and finished my race. But what you don't know is why I wanted to run this marathon in the first place. You see, when I was 17 years old, Jessica and I took my father into Boston for his birthday in April. And as we walked around that day, we saw many people wearing this nice-looking black Adidas windbreaker with 26.2 along the collar. And at 17 years old, that was a cool jacket, and I wanted one. We later found out that those jackets were from that year's Boston Marathon. And at that point in my life, I hadn't started running yet, and a 26.2-mile race seemed simply impossible. But I couldn't get the idea of it out of my mind. Later that night, I signed up for my first road race, and I had my heart set on making it to Boston one day. So it's kind of embarrassing, and it might even seem shallow, but I started running because I wanted a jacket. I wanted to feel the prestige and the honor of wearing a jacket from such a highly regarded event. And now, I have my jacket. But this jacket, it doesn't feel the same as I thought it would as a 17-year-old boy. I don't care about how it looks on me. I don't care about the color that it is or how much that it costs. I care about what it represents. And this jacket, to me, is a symbol of not letting fear win. It's getting knocked down and struggling before reaching a goal. It's being so close to your dream that you can taste it, and having it ripped from your fingertips by an act of terrorism. This jacket reminds me of all those who were severely injured and killed that day in Boston. And this jacket is the incredible support of my family over the past 2 years in the literal blood, sweat, and tears in a long journey against fear. But this jacket is not why I came back to run the marathon in 2014. I couldn't have come back if it was just about a jacket. It was about a goal much larger than myself. When I first started researching the Boston Marathon, I saw how much that it brought in for charity every year, and I thought that it was brilliant. Each year, millions of dollars are raised for various organizations through this road race. And after what had happened in 2013, I felt that I had a responsibility. I felt that there was personally more that I needed to do. I spent some time volunteering at Children's Hospital Boston, and what I saw was both heartbreaking and inspiring. And what I found out is that it gave running a new meaning. I decided that I would continue to raise money for Children's Hospital Boston. And training wasn't lonely anymore because I knew that what I was doing could help a child in need. It became a lot easier to start my long runs in a cold New England winter when I knew that what I was doing could help make a difference. And over time, I developed a passion for helping these children through running. I made a promise that for the donations of my friends and family, that I would run the Boston Marathon for Children's Hospital. Now, as Jessica and I continue to raise money, as 2 college students, we reached $11,000. We made a Facebook group called 26.2 for Children. We planned more events, and we will continue to raise money for children, not just in Boston, but hopefully all around the world. These children inspire me every step of the way. They're the reason why I have this passion to run, and they push me to move forward because the race that they're in is harder than one that I could ever start. Why did I come back to finish the marathon in 2014? Because I made a promise. A promise to my friends, my family, all of those children in Boston, and myself, that I would run the Boston Marathon for Children's Hospital. and I intended to keep that promise. So now I can say that my reason for running has drastically changed. It's not about a jacket. It's about something much more meaningful. And running to help these children has become something that I've loved. Unfortunately, fear can sometimes get in the way of things you love, or even just the tasks of everyday life. This is a picture that I took my first time back in Boston after the marathon bombing. It's a memorial of shoes that was created shortly after April 15th. Runners from around the world, including myself, laced their shoes around these rails, and it was a message. It was a statement to the world that we will not be defeated, that we will not let those who hate and commit acts of evil in this world stop us from doing the things we love. It's very easy to say no to things when you're scared. No one would have blamed me for not wanting to return to run the marathon after what had happened in 2013. Often we hear, don't let someone tell you what you can't do, but not often enough do we say, I won't let my fear tell me what I can't do. Fear surrounds us with every goal we seek. Do not let fear stop you. Do not let fear tell you what to do. If I gave in to my fear of returning to run the marathon, I would have given those terrorists exactly what they wanted. They would want us to be paralyzed by our concern so that we cower in our ever-shrinking zone of safety. Do not be paralyzed by your fear. Do not be afraid to give a presentation in front of your class where you might be embarrassed, because you're going to do great, even if you're using note cards. Do not let a fear of needles stop you from giving blood, because someone out there needs you. Do not stop yourself from telling someone that you love them, because life's too short. Do not let fear stop you from doing anything, because you'll regret it. Fear is the obstacle that challenges us. It's the villain in our story that makes us want to quit. Don't let it. You're strong. Let the power to overcome your fear make you stronger. With the motivation and passion to fulfill your goal, your promise, fear will only stop you if you let it. I returned to the starting line of the Boston Marathon in April 2014 with motivation, passion, and the attitude to overcome my fear. I finished what I set out to do, what I promised to my friends, my family, the children fighting for their lives in Boston, and myself, because I said I would. I did not let fear win. I did not let fear stop me from doing what I love. And I hope that you don't either. Thank you. I worked so hard for was now over. I stopped one of the spectators and I asked her if she could tell me what was happening. She told me that 2 bombs had exploded at the finish lines. She looked up at me with terror in her eyes, and she told me that the grandstands had blown up. My family was in the grandstands. I never had to fear much growing up. But I knew what fear was when I thought that my family had been killed. You see, the police officers had stopped the race, and the runners where I were still weren't quite sure what had happened. The police stated that an incident had occurred, and that the race was now over. And as spectators began to make their way back, they were running. And among that chaos and confusion that was ever increasing, I was still trying to grasp what was going on. At this point, I had been running for about 4 hours. I was cold, tired, and I was wondering why the race, the day that I... My name is Bobby O'Donnell, and I'm a 20-year-old college student from a town just south of Boston, Massachusetts called Easton. On April 15th, 2013, I woke up knowing that it would be a day I would never forget. Unfortunately, it became a day that America will never forget. This is fear. This is what thousands of people, including my family, witnessed in the streets of Boston on April 15th, 2013. This is the infamous marathon bombing. I was 0.6 miles from the finish line when the bombs went off. And my family was waiting for me at that finish line. I come from a very small, safe town